Okay guys, so today what we're going to be learning about are relations. So go to your table of contents and title this Understanding Relations. It's going to go on page 15. Okay, so make sure you turn to your page 15, get it titled and numbered. And you guys should all have a yellow sheet. We're going to be taking notes on the yellow sheet and stapling it in on here when we're done. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the yellow sheet you have. Okay, the first thing we want to do is talk about what a relation is. Okay, so the definition of a relation, this is a vocabulary word for you guys, so you might want to highlight it. Okay, but a relation is a set of ordered pairs. Okay, usually when we talk about a set of ordered pairs, we're dealing with x's and y's normally. Okay, but sometimes depending on the way our two different axes are labeled, it might be different variables, but normally x's and y's. Okay, now both of these vocabulary words are review, domain and range. We've talked about these before, but we're going to go over them again today because you guys are going to be doing some more work with domain and range today. So remember, the domain is all the inputs. So these are all possible values of x. And what axis do we look at when we're looking for all possible values of x? We're looking at our horizontal axis. Okay. Now, if you can remember, the range is kind of the opposite of domain. It's all the outputs. So it's all the possible values of y. And for those values, we're looking at our vertical axis. Okay, so let's take a look at example number 1. Okay, it's asking us to express each relation as a table, as a graph, and as a mapping diagram. Then it wants us to state the domain and range. So we have a few different things that we're doing here. Okay, it's given me this set of ordered pairs. So this set of ordered pairs, this right here, is the relation. Okay. And I'm going to look at that relation to fill out my table, my graph right here, and my mapping right here. Okay. Now, one thing I noticed about the way this printed for you guys is it didn't print the grid lines very well. So if you just want to lightly with your pencil trace over the grid lines on this before we get going, it'll make it a little bit easier for you guys to graph when we get to that part. So take just a minute to trace over these grid lines. They're kind of fuzzy. All right, there we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to express each relation as a table. Okay, so the table's right here, and it has a spot for all of our x values and all of our y values. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each x value from each ordered pair and place it in the table, and take its corresponding y value and place it in the table next to it. So for this first ordered pair, I would put -2 right there and +5 right here. The first one is the x, the second one is the y. Remember, the first one is the x because x comes first before y in the alphabet, right? Like when you sing your ABCs, that's what comes first, okay? So now, from this ordered pair, here's the x, here's the y, so we're going to put the x here and the y there. Okay, 3 is the x, and 1 is the y. And for the last one, -1 is the x, and -2 is the y. Okay, so I've got all of my ordered pairs for my relation in my table right here. Okay, that's done. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to graph each ordered pair. So remember, when we're graphing, the first number tells us which way to move along the x-axis, going left or right, okay? And the second number tells us which way to move along the y-axis, going up or down. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and graph this first point. It's -2 is going to the left 2 units and up 5 along the vertical axis. So remember, we always start in the middle at the origin, so go left 2, up 5, put your point there. That is your first point from your relation. Okay? All right, next we're going to go -1, up 1. Okay, over 3. This is positive, so we're going to move to the right 3, up 1. And now we're going to go -1, -2. Okay? Now, I know these points we put, they're not making like a line, they're not making any kind of special pattern, they're just, you know, 4 ordered pairs, and that's fine. Okay? Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead, so we've done the table, we've done the graph, now we're going to do the mapping diagram. Okay? So over here is your mapping diagram. What we're going to do is we're going to label the first part of our mapping the x and the second part the y. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our x and y values in here. Okay? Now, I'm going to go point by point, so I'm going to take my first ordered pair and I'm going to put -2 in where the x goes, and I'm going to put 5 over here where the y goes. Now, the -2 corresponds with 5, so in a mapping diagram, I draw an arrow from the input to the output. Okay? So from the x to the y. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take the next one. It's -1 is the x value, and 1 is your y value. So I'm going to draw an arrow from the input to the output, like that. Okay, now our next one is 3 and 1. So I'm going to go ahead and write 3 here, but I already wrote down 1 over here, so I don't need to write it again when I'm doing a mapping. A mapping is different than a table. In a table, you need to write it every single time, all the points. In a mapping, if you've already wrote it once, you can just draw an arrow indicating that the input of 3 goes to the output of 1, so that 3 and 1 are corresponding to each other. They are an ordered pair. Okay, and last I have -1, -2. Well, I already have -1 written down, so I'm just going to leave it there, and it corresponds with -2. So now what I'm going to do is write down the -2 and draw an arrow from -1 to -2, because those ones correspond as well. Okay, so that's your mapping. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at example number 2. Okay, in example number 2, the graph came out kind of crappy again, so let's go ahead and redraw the lines so you guys can see it better. Okay, so there's our lines. All right, so now, oh shoot. Before we go on to this example, I almost forgot. We're supposed to identify the domain and range here, right? So let's talk about the domain and range before we move on, okay? The domain is all the inputs or all of the values for x. Okay, once we've done a mapping, we can see all of the inputs and all of the outputs. So it's really easy here to identify my domain and my range. My domain are all the individual values I have for x. My range is all the possible values I have for y. So the domain, since this is a discrete relation, I'm going to go ahead and just write -2, -1, +3. Okay? All right, for my range, I'm going to go ahead and write here 5, 1, and negative 2. I'm getting those values right there. Okay. Now remember, when you write your domain and range, if you have multiple x values that are the same, like here you have negative 1 and 1, you do not need to repeat them. You can just write it one time. Same thing in the y value for the range. If you have multiple y values that are the same, you don't need to write them again. That's why I'm only writing one time. Okay, let's go ahead and now go on to example 2. Okay, so for example 2, here's my relation right here. These are all my set of ordered pairs. So we're going to go ahead and put those into a table. Okay, so the first ordered pair is 5 and 3. The second ordered pair, 4 and 3. And the third ordered pair, 3 and 3, 2 and 3, and then 1 and 3. Okay. Next, we're going to go ahead and graph each of those points. So this says over 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 3. There's your first ordered pair. Over 4, up 3. Over 3, up 3. Okay, over 2, up 3. And last, over 1, up 3. Okay. All right, so there's my set of ordered pairs. All right, next I'm going to go ahead and put them into a mapping. So here's for x, here's for y. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at my first ordered pair, 5, 3, 5, and 3. Those go together. So I'm drawing an arrow from my input to my output. Next, 4 and 3. Now, I already have 3 here, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw an arrow again. Okay, then I have 3 and 3. Well, that y value is already there, so I'm going to draw an arrow again. And 2 and 3. Oh, I really have to squish here because I'm almost out of room. But let's see if I can squeeze the 1 in down there. And that also goes with 3. Okay, so I don't need to write 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 in the mapping. Okay, I only need to write each x value once and each y value once and show which ones correspond using arrows. All right, let's go ahead and talk about my domain and my range for this problem here. Okay, so my domain is going to be all the values of x. So let's take a look at all of my x values. I can look at them here. I can also look at them here. Okay, so they are 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and look at my range values. I see I have 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, or I have 3 over here. But either way, either part that I look at, whether I look at the table or I look at the mapping, I'm only going to write 1, 3, because I don't need to repeat any of the values. So the range is 3. The only possible number I can get for a y value is 3. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at problem number 3. Okay. For problem number 3, they did not give us very much space here to do a table or a graph or a mapping. So what I think we should do is maybe put that in our notebook. So you guys already titled page 15. Okay, but you're going to staple the yellow sheet on the front of page 15. So let's go to the back of page 15. And we'll just write this problem down on the back of page 15. And then you'll have it there in your notes. Okay, so here's the back of page 15. And I'm just going to copy down the problem there. So this is number 3. And here's my relation, 1, 5. That's the first ordered pair. And 2, 4, 3, 5, 3, 4, 4, 4, and 5, 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a table. Okay, So my table, I need to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to put some points, and I also need to have the heading, so I'm going to make it 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill in your X and your Y values. So first ordered pair 1, 5. Next 2, 4. 3, 5. 3, 4. 4, 4. And 5, 5. Okay. All right, so we've got our table done. Let's go ahead and draw a graph. Try when you guys are drawing this graph to make your spacing even. If you don't make it even, it's going to come out kind of funky looking. Okay, and this is your x-axis, and this is your y-axis, so we'll label those. Okay, so let's go ahead and start graphing our points. 1, 5, so over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just do the best job you can trying to get the points into the right place. Okay, I know we don't have grid lines here. You guys can draw grid lines if you want. Okay, let's do the next one, 2, 4, so over 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, next 3, 5, so over 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have 3, 4, so over 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1, 2, 3, 4. And last 5, 5 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Okay. So there is my relation right there on a graph. Okay. Last, we're going to go ahead and do a mapping. See if I can squeeze it in over here. So I'm going to draw two kind of like rectangles. They're kind of sloppy looking, but they will do. Okay, so there's X and there's Y. So let's go ahead and fill in my first ordered pair, 1 and 5. So 1 is going to correspond with 5. So I'm going to draw an arrow connecting those two. Okay, next 2 is going to correspond with 4. So I'm going to draw an arrow connecting those two. Okay, 3 goes with 5. So 3 goes with 5, but I already put 5 on my table, so all I have to do is just draw an arrow connecting 3 and 5. Okay, 3 and 4. Well, I already put 3 in the X spot, and I already put 4 in the Y spot, so all I have to do is connect those. Okay, and 4 and 4, so I don't have a 4 over here for my X yet, so I'm going to write that down. But I do have a 4 over here for my Y, so I'm going to go ahead and connect those two. Okay, and last 5 and 5. So I don't have a 5 for my X. I do have one for my Y, so I'm going to go all the way up here and connect these. Okay, so I think we've had enough practice. We've done 3 examples together. So now what you guys are going to do is start on your homework tonight. Okay. I have a worksheet for you guys. It looks like this. This is the front. Okay, this is the back. It's actually from your textbook, but I didn't want you guys to have to copy it all down, so I just made a photocopy for you guys. So this is what you guys are going to be working on. Okay, so your homework is to complete this and have it ready for me to check tomorrow. All right, have a good day.